Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. If you want to follow along, we will be starting in the 19th chapter of Proverbs today. And just continued general wisdom, I guess, is the easiest way to define what we're looking at. And Proverbs are an interesting thing when you think about them. They're kind of like I don't know, most of you, if you're a lot of folks, that scar here on your arm, I don't even remember what that shot. I remember getting it, oddly enough, some 50 some years ago, but I don't know what it's for. The way you get a shot, as you get older, the shots change, shingle shot, flu shot, those kind of things. But you do things to keep, you keep disease from coming. You eat different things, those kind of things. That's kind of the way the book of Proverbs is. Proverbs is kind of like a vaccination. Here is some wisdom that if you'll take it and put it into place in your life, it will prevent you and protect you from a lot of grief and a lot of sorrow in your life. And I think that's one of the reasons why many times Solomon in his Proverbs gives us a contrast. He'll show us both what a wise man does and what a foolish man does. And says, here's the two choices. And so as we pick up in chapter 19, he's again giving us the option, giving us the instruction, the opportunity to choose wisely instead of living our life foolishly. And the interesting thing that my experience, unfortunately, has been is that you can get away with foolishness for a season, but eventually it will bite you. And a lot of people they've learned that again the hard way, and some are still waiting to learn it. They're living their life very foolishly. But the judgment day, payday, will eventually come. And so, beginning in verse 1, he says, "Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool." He says, ultimately, it's better to be poor and to be honest than to be foolish and dishonest. There's a lot of people who are willing to violate most any rule, law, go most any length for success, for wealth, to get what they want. But Solomon tells his son, "You'd be better off to be poor and to act wisely and to have integrity, to be honorable, to be honest, than it would be to be the wealthiest man on the planet and have to lie and cheat and steal to get there." And the bad thing is typically when a person has to lie, cheat, steal to get there, then they have to lie, cheat, steal to stay there. And so Solomon says it would be better to be poor and have the reputation of an honest man than to be a wealthy crook. And also, that the soul be without knowledge, it is not good. And he that hasteth with his feet sinneth. He's saying here knowledge is important. Again, it's important to have that wisdom. Make wise decisions. Don't make your decisions without gathering the facts. Don't make your choices without gathering all the relevant information you possibly can. Probably every one of us this morning can relate to that. There have been times when we made a decision, we made a choice on partial information, and ended up being a bad decision. We were excited about that decision. We thought it was a good decision, but we really didn't research and think through that decision. And so he gives us some good advice. And unfortunately, I'd like to say that getting older changes that, but I don't necessarily think that's true. We all, if we're not careful, will find ourselves at any age, on occasion, making quick, rash decisions without gathering the information that we need, specifically without praying about that decision, without asking God for His guidance and wisdom in a decision. And then verse 3, the foolishness of man perverteth his way, and his heart fretteth against the Lord. He says, don't, this is a common occurrence. Don't do something foolish and then turn around and blame God for it. You make those rash decisions. You do things, and then you want to accuse or blame God for not intervening. In almost 40 years now, I guess, of ministry, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat in my office with those who, plain and simple, they just made dumb decisions. They just didn't act very wisely in their marriage, in their work, in their, whatever situation, in their job, in their business. They just didn't act very wisely. They just made a bad, dumb decision. And then they sit down and want to know why God didn't intervene, why God didn't do anything. Well, you didn't ask God. You didn't pray about it back when it was going on. You didn't consider God. You wasn't worried about where God was. You wasn't worried about God's principles. Now you want to drag Him into your mess? Solomon says no. He says you can't fret against the Lord. I like that. You can't fret against the Lord now. Once you've made that bad decision, you can't don't blame God for your poor decision. And if we could sum up these three proverbs, the message is very simple. As we've seen over and over again. Again, Solomon gives us the example of wisdom and the example of foolishness. And foolishness, he says, will always cost you. It will usually cost you dearly. It may not. It may take a while. It may be years down the road. It may not happen immediately. But foolishness will end up costing you dearly. There are people who their foolishness, it ended up costing them through their children. But he says foolishness, whether it's dishonesty in your business, whether it's poor judgment, wherever it is, he says that dishonesty, that poor judgment, that lack of wisdom, foolishness, he says will cost you dearly. And so that's a real important thing for us, a real important thing for us to keep out front of our mind as we go through each day and making our decisions, how we make those choices, how we make those decisions carefully, prayerfully, as we consider the options that we have. Is this going to, the end consequence of this decision? Is my seeking the wisdom of God, or is this decision in my own foolishness? You consider that today, and I think you have a better day. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye bye.